The space station called Orion Market was always loud. Machines hummed day and night. Ships arrived and left every minute. Different alien voices mixed with human language in the air. To most people, it was a place of business. To Walker, it was just another lonely place far away from Earth. He was a human engineer. He repaired ships. He fixed broken systems. He worked long hours and slept in a small rented room. He had no family here. No close friends. Only work. That day, after finishing a long shift, decided to walk through the lower market. He wanted to buy some food and return home. But he did not know that one small walk would change his life forever. The lower market was darker than the upper levels. Lights were weak. The floor was dirty. The air smelled of metal and oil. Strange stalls were everywhere. Some sold rare animals. Some sold old weapons. Some sold alien artifacts. And some sold living beings. Did not like this part of the station. He usually avoided it. But that day, something made him stop. A soft sound, almost like a broken whisper. "Please." He turned his head. Between two metal stalls, he saw a small cage. Inside it was a girl. She was not human. Her skin was light silver blue, shining weakly under the broken lights. Her long hair was white like moonlight, tied roughly behind her head. Her ears were long and thin, moving slightly when she breathed. Chains were wrapped around her wrists and ankles. A metal collar was locked around her neck. Her clothes were torn, dirty, old. Small wounds covered her arms. But what hurt the most were her eyes. They were big, purple, beautiful, and completely empty. She was sitting on the cold floor of the cage. Her knees pulled to her chest. Her head lowered, like she was trying to disappear. Two alien traders stood near her. They were tall, with green skin and sharp teeth. They laughed loudly. "Strong body," one said. "Good for work," the other replied. Not much spirit left, though. They kicked the cage lightly. She did not react. It was like she was already broken. Felt something twist inside his chest. Anger, sadness, pain. How can they treat her like this? He thought. He stepped closer. The sound of his boots made her look up. For a moment, their eyes met. And she froze. Her body shook. Her breathing became fast. Fear filled her face. She immediately looked down again, whispering in a weak voice, "I will obey, please don't hurt me." His heart stopped. She thought he was here to buy her, to own her, to control her, to hurt her, just like the others. He slowly raised his hand. Not to touch, not to grab, only to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. But she did not understand his language, only his tone. Still, she trembled. The traders noticed him. "You interested human?" one asked. "Rare species," the other added. "Good worker, cheap today." Cheap. They were talking about a living person, like she was an object. Clenched his fists. "How much?" he asked. The traders smiled. They named a high price. Very high. More than had saved in years. His heart dropped. "That's everything I have," he thought. If he paid, he would be almost broke. No backup. No safety. No future plan. But when he looked at her again, saw her shaking body, her silent tears, her hopeless eyes, he made his decision. "I'll take her," he said. Without hesitation, the traders laughed happily. Good choice, one said. They began preparing the contract. While they worked, moved closer to the cage. He crouched down, lowered himself to her level, so he wouldn't look threatening. I promise, he whispered, even though she could not fully understand. I will never hurt you. She looked at him, confused, scared, but somewhere deep inside her eyes, a tiny spark of hope appeared, and didn't know it yet. But that small spark would one day become love. The sound of metal echoed through the market. Clink, clink, clink. It was the sound of chains being unlocked. The traders opened the cage slowly, like they were opening a box with merchandise inside. Not a life, not a heart, not a soul, just goods. The alien girl sat very still. Her hands were shaking. Her breathing was fast. She did not try to escape. She did not try to run. She only waited, like a prisoner waiting for her sentence. One of the traders grabbed her arm. Stand, he ordered. She stood immediately. Her legs were weak. She almost fell, but she forced herself to stay upright. Years of fear had trained her well. Watch this scene. His stomach turned. This is wrong, he thought again and again. But he kept his voice calm. Please don't pull her, he said. The trader looked at him strangely. She's property now, he replied. You paid. Those words felt like knives. Property. Hated them. He signed the final document quickly. His hands were shaking. With that one signature, all his savings were gone. Every credit. Every backup. Everything. But he did not regret it. Not even for 1 second. The traders placed a small metal device in his hand. This is the control chip, one said. With this, she must obey. Looked at the device. It was small, cold, light, but it felt heavy in his heart. With this, he could command her, make her work, make her kneel, make her suffer. Many masters enjoyed this power. Felt sick just thinking about it. He quietly put the chip in his pocket. He had no plan to use it. Not now. Not ever. They removed her chains. But not the collar. The collar stays, the trader said. Standard rule. Wanted to argue, but he knew it would cause trouble. So he nodded. For now, he would deal with it later. The trader pushed her toward him. She's yours, he said. She stumbled and almost fell into his arms. Her body was thin, light, fragile, like she hadn't eaten properly in months. Gently held her shoulders to keep her steady. She froze. Her eyes widened. Her entire body became stiff. She expected pain, punishment, maybe worse. But nothing happened. He did not hit her, did not shout, did not pull her. He simply helped her stand. Then he stepped back, giving her space. She looked confused, very confused. They began walking through the market. Walked slowly, so she could keep up, but she stayed half a step behind him. Head lowered, hands crossed, like a shadow. People stared. Some laughed. Some whispered. Some pointed. Human bought a slave, they said. Ignored them. But she heard everything. Every word. Every laugh. Each one hurt her. She believed she was nothing more than that. A slave. After some time, they reached his apartment building. It was small, old, but clean. He lived on the third floor. When they entered his room, she stopped at the door. She did not step inside. She stood outside, waiting, noticed. "Come in," he said softly. She slowly entered. Her eyes moved everywhere. The bed, the table, the window, the shelves. It was bigger than any place she had lived in for years. And there were no chains, no cages, no guards, only silence. Close the door. The sound made her jump. She quickly knelt on the floor. Her forehead touched the ground. "I will work," she said in broken common language. "I will obey. Please don't punish me." Her voice cracked. Tears fell. Panicked. "No, no," he said quickly. "Please stand up." She didn't. She was too afraid. He slowly knelt in front of her, keeping distance, so she wouldn't feel threatened. "I'm not your master," he said gently. "You don't have to kneel." She looked up. Her eyes were full of fear and doubt. "But you bought me," she whispered. "Yes," he replied, "but not to own you." She didn't understand. Her world had only one rule. If someone buys you, they control you. There was no other way. Went to the kitchen and brought some food and water. He placed them near her. "Eat," he said kindly. She stared at the food, then at him, then back at the food. She was silent. Slowly, carefully, she took one bite. Then another. Tears rolled down her face as she ate. It was warm, fresh, real food. Not leftovers, not trash. No one had given her food like this before. Watched quietly, and in his heart he made a promise. I will never let her suffer again. And the alien girl, for the first time in years, felt a small, confusing feeling in her chest. Something she had forgotten. Something called. Hope. Days turned into weeks. Did not force her to do anything. He gave her clothes, food, and a warm bed. Yet she never slept on it. Instead, she stayed on the floor, curled up, like a prisoner in a cell. Her name was Lyra, she said one quiet night while helping him clean the small apartment. Her voice was soft, trembling like a leaf in the wind. "I am slave," she said, almost whispering. "Floor is enough." Shook his head. "No, you are not a slave," he said gently. But she didn't understand. All her life, she had known only one rule. If someone buys you, you obey. If someone gives orders, you listen. If someone is stronger, you are nothing. Even here in this small apartment, her body and mind were trained to obey. To hide. To stay small. Watched her quietly. She cleaned the apartment from corner to corner. She cooked simple meals for him. She spoke little. And when she did, her words were soft and careful, as if she feared the wrong word could bring punishment. He wanted to tell her she was free. Truly free. But words alone weren't enough. She needed proof. Every evening taught her human words. She struggled at first, her tongue not used to the sounds. But slowly she learned. She asked questions about the world outside, about the stars, about Earth, about people. He told her stories of human life, funny stories, sad stories, exciting ones. Her eyes would shine as she listened, full of wonder. And sometimes when she laughed quietly at a story, his heart skipped a beat. It was the first time he had seen her truly alive. One night, as she lay on the floor after cleaning, placed a small blanket over her shoulders. She stiffened. "I don't need it," she said quietly. "Yes, you do," replied softly. She looked at him, hesitation in her eyes. No one gives warmth without asking for something in return, she whispered. His chest tightened. He realized then that she had never been cared for, never loved, never treated like a person. Her entire life had been survival, not living. Days became months. Worked on his projects, fixing ships, repairing systems. Lyra stayed close, watching him, learning, helping quietly. She never asked for anything for herself. She never demanded freedom. She thought she already had none. Yet slowly, she began small acts of rebellion. She wore the clothes he gave her instead of the torn rags. She sat on the chair instead of the floor. She laughed at small jokes he told, letting a sound of joy escape her lips. And noticed every change. Each smile, each laugh, each flicker of life returning. He felt a strange warmth in his chest. He was not saving her. She was saving him too, from loneliness, from apathy, from the darkness of his own life. But fear never left her. Even as she learned to trust, she jumped at sudden sounds. Even as she laughed, her hands shook when someone entered the apartment. Even as she ate a proper meal, she flinched if he moved too fast. Her past was deep, etched into her body and soul, and understood that healing would take time. Patience, love, consistency. And he was ready to give her all three. One rainy night, when the lights of the station flickered outside the window, looked at her quietly. She was sitting on the floor, cleaning a small corner, silent as usual. He knelt beside her, careful not to scare her. "You don't have to do all this," he said softly. Her hands froze on the cloth. I must," she said quietly, eyes down. "Why?" Because I am yours, I must obey." His heart ached. "No, Lyra," he said gently, taking her hands in his, careful not to squeeze. "You are not mine, you are free. You are not a slave, never have been, never will be. I want nothing from you but your choice." For a moment, she did not respond. Her eyes filled with tears. Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him. But the fear, the years of pain, and the memories of chains held her back. Yet in that silence, something began to change. A seed of hope planted in a heart long starved. And smiled softly, knowing that the hardest part was done. He had reached her heart. The rest would take time. But he had all the time in the universe. Life had begun to settle into a quiet rhythm for Lyra. She no longer stayed frozen in corners all day. She ate her meals, helped him clean, and even asked questions about the world. But deep down, a shadow of fear still lingered. She had learned to trust him, slowly, piece by piece. Yet the past, chains, cruelty, and broken words, haunted her still. Knew it, and he gave her space. Always patience. Always care. Always respect. One evening, as the station moved through a dense asteroid field, alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed violently. Sirens screamed. A deep rumble shook the walls. His heart jumped. "Emergency," a voice shouted over the intercom. He grabbed Lyra's hand instinctively. "Stay close," he shouted over the noise. She clutched his hand like her life depended on it, which, in a way, it did. They rushed through the station corridors. Smoke began to fill the hallways. Debris fell from the ceiling. People ran in panic. Some were screaming. Others were tripping over fallen metal beams or injured aliens. Guided Lyra through the chaos. But in the middle of a corner, a large metal beam collapsed. It landed directly on his leg. Pain exploded through him. He fell to the floor, groaning. Lyra screamed. Her voice was raw with terror. She tried to lift the beam herself, but it wouldn't budge. Then something incredible happened. She took a deep breath. Her small hands pressed against the metal. Her body shook with effort, and with a strength did not know she had, The beam moved slightly. Another push. Another strain. She lifted it enough for him to crawl free. Her hands were bleeding. Her arms ached. Her legs trembled. But she would not let go. She dragged him through the smoke, carrying him part of the way, supporting him with everything she had. By the time they reached the emergency exit, both were coughing from smoke, sweating from fear, and exhausted. Looked at her. "You saved me," he whispered, his voice trembling from pain and disbelief. She shook her head. I must," she said, panting. "I cannot lose you, not like everyone else I have lost." Her words hit him like a thunderclap. She wasn't a slave. She wasn't property. She was brave. She was strong. She cared. In the medical bay, was treated for a broken leg and minor burns from falling debris. He woke hours later, groggy, to find her sitting beside him. Her hair was messy. Her hands were scratched. Her clothes were torn. But her eyes shone with relief and fear. "You live," she whispered. "Yes," said, smiling weakly through the pain. "Thanks to you." Her face changed instantly. Confusion, embarrassment, fear, and something softer, warmer. "You risked yourself," he said. "You didn't have to. I would have been careful." "You mean nothing if you are dead," she interrupted softly, tears welling. "Nothing." Felt a lump in his throat. It wasn't just gratitude he felt. It was awe. This fragile, broken girl, who thought she was nothing, had saved him with courage he had never imagined. Later, as he lay in the quiet of the hospital, he thought about her. She had stayed with him through fear, smoke, and pain. She had chosen to fight, even though she believed herself powerless. And for the first time, realized that she had never been a slave. Not really. Her spirit had never broken, even if her body had been chained. Her heart had always been free. And he had barely scratched the surface of understanding her courage. That night, he quietly promised himself something. He would protect her. Not because he owned her. Not because of duty. But because he loved her. And maybe, just maybe, she would come to understand the same. He did not know when that day would come. But after what she had done for him, lifting him from death, carrying him through smoke, and placing herself in danger, he knew one thing clearly. The girl who thought she was a slave was far stronger than anyone else he had ever known. And Walker would never take her strength for granted. Weeks had passed since the fire and chaos in the station. Sleg healed slowly, and Lyra never left his side. She cooked, cleaned, and sat with him quietly, often just watching him work. But a weight still hung between them. She did not trust fully. She still thought that because he had bought her, she belonged to him. That even if he treated her kindly, she was, at her core, his property. And knew he had to show her the truth. Not just with words. With proof. One evening, he called her into the living room. She entered cautiously, keeping her distance. Her purple eyes, always so alert, were wide with worry. "What is it?" she asked softly. He smiled gently. "Sit," he said. She lowered herself to the floor, hands on her knees tense. Reached for something in a small drawer, a small, flat device. Her eyes flicked to it immediately. "The control chip," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "This can make you obey. It can control you, make you do anything." Her lips trembled. I thought you would use it." Shook his head slowly. "No, I never used it, and I never will." Her hands shook as she reached for it instinctively. He pulled it back and placed it on the table between them. Then he smashed it with a hammer. The small device cracked into pieces. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened. She could not speak. "Why?" she finally asked, voice trembling. "Because I never owned you," said softly, kneeling in front of her. You were never a slave, you were never property, you were always free. Her knees buckled slightly, and she sank to the floor. Tears filled her eyes, and for the first time she let herself cry openly. I thought I was nothing, she whispered, voice breaking. Reached out, gently taking her hands in his. You are everything, Lyra, he said. Everything a person could ever be. You saved my life. You saved me from fear, and now I will never let anyone or anything take that away from you. She looked up at him, disbelief in her eyes. I don't understand. You bought me, yet you say I'm free. Yes, he replied. I rewrote the contract long ago. You are listed as an independent citizen, not property, not a slave, free, completely free. I could not let you know at first. You needed time to trust me, and you did. Lyra pressed her hands to her chest. You mean it, she whispered. Yes, he said. Every word. Her knees gave way, and she collapsed into his arms. She cried quietly, shaking, sobbing with relief, with fear, with joy. Held her gently. He did not speak. He simply let her let go. That night, Lyra finally understood what freedom felt like. It was not just about breaking chains. It was about trust. About knowing someone cared without conditions. About being valued as a person, not as an object. Stayed awake long after she slept, thinking about her. He realized how wrong the traders were. How wrong the universe was to treat beings like her as nothing. And how rare it was to find someone willing to see the truth, willing to act on it, willing to give love instead of fear. He smiled softly to himself, because he had found that rare person in Lyra. The next morning, she hesitated before speaking. I don't know what to do now. I feel strange. Good strange, he asked. Yes, and bad strange, she admitted. I don't know how to be free. Knelt before her again. You already know how, he said. Freedom isn't chains or contracts. Freedom is choice. You choose to stay, you choose to live, you choose to love or not love, and you choose who you are. Everything else is nothing. Lyra looked at him, her eyes bright and full of emotion. She reached out and touched his hand. For the first time, I feel like I am me, she whispered. Smiled. Yes, and you always will be. That day marked a turning point. Lyra began to truly live. She laughed more. She asked questions. She explored the station on her own. She even argued with at times, a small sign that she understood her power, her voice, her freedom. And watched her carefully, heart swelling. Because now he knew the truth. She was never a slave. She was a human, or alien, being with courage, heart, and soul. And he would spend the rest of his life making sure she never forgot it. Weeks passed, and life had begun to feel peaceful. The fire, the chaos, the fear, they were memories now, though still vivid in their minds. Lyra no longer cowered in corners. She moved freely in the apartment, laughed softly at jokes, and sometimes even teased him just a little. But beneath her laughter, a cautious shadow lingered. She still carried the weight of her past chains in her heart. She still believed, in some quiet corner of her mind, that someone could claim her. Someone could make her obey. And while never intended to do so, he knew that love alone could not erase the fear of a lifetime. One night, the station lights glowed softly outside the window. Artificial stars flickered in the dark sky beyond. The apartment was quiet. Sat beside Lyra, their knees almost touching. They had spent the evening talking, laughing, and sharing stories of home, of the stars, of small dreams they had never dared to speak aloud. Lyra looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting the dim light. You are different from everyone else, she said quietly. Other humans, they see me as weak, useless property. Smiled softly. I never saw you that way, he said gently. You were always strong, stronger than anyone else I have ever met. Her hands fidgeted nervously in her lap. I do not understand why you are kind, she admitted. Why you saved me, helped me, stayed. Took a deep breath. Because I love you, he said simply. Her eyes widened. She looked at him, disbelief and confusion flashing across her face. Love, she whispered, almost as if saying the word out loud could break it. Yes, he said. I saved you not because I had to. I protected you not because it was my duty. I did all of it because I want to for you, for us. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then slowly stood and knelt in front of her. Not as a master, not as an owner, but as a human man, small and vulnerable in front of the woman who had saved him in ways he could never repay. He took both her hands in his. Lyra, he said, his voice shaking slightly, though steady with emotion. I didn't save you to own you. I didn't protect you because I felt guilty. I did it because I love you, and I want to spend my life with you. Her hands froze. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came. He swallowed hard. Lyra, will you be my wife? He asked. For a long moment, she did nothing. Her mind raced. Wife, not slave, not servant, not property. Partner equal, human loved. Her chest tightened. Her throat was dry. Her hands trembled. She could not move. Her legs felt like stone. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the station outside. Waited, careful not to push. Careful not to scare her. Careful not to let her fear take over. Tears began to form in her eyes. She remembered the chains, the collar, the cage, the traders laughing at her like she was nothing. She remembered the fire, the smoke, the debris that had almost killed, and how she had lifted him herself, risking everything. She remembered the control chip, the contract, the proof that he had never owned her, the truth that she had always been free. And now, standing before him, he was asking her to choose willingly, to love willingly. Her mind screamed, her heart raced, and yet something in her chest softened. Something she had not felt in years. Hope, trust, love. Finally, her lips trembled, and her voice barely escaped. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. His chest surged with relief. Tears formed in his eyes, too. He pulled her into his arms gently. She rested her head against his chest, crying softly. Not in fear, not in pain, but in joy. Because for the first time in her life she had chosen someone, and that choice was returned. They held each other in silence, letting the moment stretch as long as it needed to. The fear, the chains, the past, they were gone. All that remained was trust, love, and a promise. A promise of forever. And in that quiet room, under the soft, artificial stars of the station, Lyra realized something profound. She had been free all along. And now she was free to love.